Hi, well, I'm Michael Lewarne, and I'm an architect and I guess public artist, amongst many other things, but that's the main two things that I'm interested in doing.
I'm Tom Rivard. I'm also an architect and I suppose, like Michael, work in a number of other fields: public arts, education, installation, things like that. Food for thought came from our mutual interest in all these various fields: urbanism, architecture, public art, performance. And it was born of an idea about public art being less about the object and more about the engagement with the space in which it was in. And we found an opportunity to do that by having a project that was more of a vehicle for, let's use the word engagement again, getting people actively involved in offering up their opinions about the particular public space.
I think the other important thing was it originally came out of a project that was for temporary artwork, and we decided that given they're spending a lot of money on this temporary art project, it would actually be really nice if the installation had a life beyond the installation, if they're going to spend a lot of money on it. So then the thoughts that we collected and potentially projects that may come out of it would then have a life beyond just that initial installation.
Essentially, it's the act, and we call it an act because it does have a beginning, a middle, and end. The first is an inhabitation of public space, whether it be an event, whether it be a civic space in the city, it could be a rural space. We did some work in Broken Hill. That's the first stage of it, that kind of inhabitation. And it's performative, it's graphic, it's a kind of branding of the space by the project. And once we set up there, we then engage locals, passers-by, people using that space with a question specific to that locality. And it's soliciting ideas for the future. We're not asking commentary, it's not an opinion project, it's really more about having vision and soliciting those ideas to give people essentially a kind of stake in what happens in those spaces. People fill out their card, they come back to our little kiosk and exchange that card for a cup of soup. And to further the community involvement or the local involvement, we get someone who's a figure in the community or that event or that space to be the server, and also we get a local restaurant to contribute the soup. We like the idea of elevating the exchange. It tends to then correspondingly elevate the worth of someone's idea. People have ideas all the time. It's not so often that you actually get something in return for offering them.
We've made a report that probably went beyond what we had originally envisaged because we did additional research which was beyond just the installation. And then we documented the installations. We pulled out within the body of the report what we thought were the more interesting or better ideas in some cases. And then, but within that there was also every single answer. And then we built on top of it and we kind of did speculations about various aspects of Broken Hill in the future. So we made up little stories about how Broken Hill suddenly was in 2050, based on the responses that we got and some of the ideas that we collected.
You mean like if those thoughts were to be realised?
Yeah.
Yeah, we construct a scenario. We're always constructing scenarios to get people to think into the future, because so often design in its broadest sense is about here's an existing problem and here's a solution to it. We're trying to say here's a proposition that could exist 10 years from now that solves a problem that may not even have arisen yet. And so you construct these scenarios as if they're real, and then it kind of removes the uncertainty about the ideas that might have spurred them in the first place. We'd like to think that the project can in some sense act in the same way by generating these visions of the future where people ask the question, yes, why not? Instead of coming up with a lot of obstructions as to why it can't exist. You eliminate all of the bureaucracy and the paperwork and the DAs and all of that stuff by projecting it as a future reality.
And also if people get excited by that, they actually suddenly see the idea in a context, then maybe there's less resistance for the effort that it's going to take to realise it perhaps.